I'm assuming you clicked on this video because you are interested in your health. Why else would anybody watch a video about gallbladders being removed? Perhaps you've had yours removed. Perhaps you've heard that you need to have yours removed. Well, we're going to talk about that tonight because there's a lot of things I've learned about health in the past 5 or 6 years that I would like to share with you in regard to this, because if somebody had told me this 20 years ago, it would have saved me a lot of heartache. Stick around and we'll talk about it. Hello and welcome back to Ferrigno Freedom Channel. I am Dante Ferrigno and I have been doing the carnivore diet now for 5.5 years, but I'll get into more of that soon. For those of you who are new here that are clicking on this because you're trying to find out information about your health, I'm here because I really do care about people knowing this information, because I see people all the time going through things that they think are just normal. This is just a normal course of life. This is something that has to be done. This is what happens when you get older. This is what happens to everybody. I know people in my family who've had gallbladders removed, and I figure it's just normal for me to have this. Well, I'm going to tell you, it's another thing I've learned in this life that we accept as normal that is not normal. And I would love it if any of you who are watching this, especially those of you who come and subscribe to my channel, first of all, thank you very much for what you do. You make this channel possible. You make it possible for me to be able to share this information with more people, and I appreciate you being here, especially people like Jeff and Lance and Sourpuss, who are all here in the chat tonight. Please feel free to join me in the chat. I look forward to your questions. I look forward to your comments, and I definitely would like to have any relatable stories that you could share involving the gallbladder that you've dealt with while we're talking about the gallbladder tonight. Because, this is the type of thing most people go through life. They don't think about their gallbladder until one moment when you wind up waking up in the hospital and they're telling you, you got to get this thing cut out of you that has always been there, and you don't know anything. You don't know what gallbladder is. You don't know where gall is, what it's for. And the doctors and the nurses that you talk to aren't always very informational in that area. Real quick story. When I was, this was 24 years ago. I was the manager at a movie theater, I wasn't yet. I had just before this job, I was working somewhere else. And I was out with my wife at dinner, and life was normal. And then all of a sudden, I felt nauseated, like, oh man, I don't feel too good. I'd had a couple of drinks. Maybe I had too much to drink. But the next thing I knew, I was in the hospital. And I was waking up with somebody telling me that I got to have my gallbladder taken out. And I said, what is that? What caused it? Why do I have to do this? There's stones in my gallbladder? Why are there stones in my gallbladder? They didn't have any answers for these things. They just said, yep, there's stones in there, so it's got to come out. That's basically, maybe in their daily work, that was, well, once we see stones in there, we got to take it out. That's all there is to it, right? But there's no talking about what caused it. Even when I asked, they didn't know. Now, hopefully this has changed in 24 years, but I don't really know that. So we're going to look at some things tonight that might examine what has changed. But I just said, okay, well, take it out. No problem. No big deal, right? Well, I didn't find out till years later how important your gallbladder is simply by changing the way I eat, because I was trying to resolve another health problem I was having. And we can get into that in just a moment as far as the diet goes. But that was when things changed as far as knowing about what your health is doing. So with that being said, let's take a look at this video here. First, let me bring up the screen. Oop, that's not the right one. Yeah, that's the right one. Hey, Ivy. Time to harvest? All right, so let's see here. We're going to jump right in and just kind of take a look at what is the gallbladder, because I know some of you are like where I was 24 years ago. I have no idea what this thing does. Let's see, that's not the one.
Your gallbladder is a small but important part of the biliary system. Tucked into a small, hollowed-out area under the right side of your liver, this tiny, pear-shaped organ functions like a storage tank for all the bile your liver produces. Bile, also known as gall, contains different salts and acids that help break down the food you eat. Your gallbladder can hold up to nearly 3 ounces of this sticky green fluid at any given time.
Good to see you, Jiffy.
When you have a snack or a meal, certain hormones cause your gallbladder to contract, releasing bile into a biliary duct that runs towards your small intestine. There, the bile is slowly introduced so that it can help break down any fatty foods you've eaten. As a result, your body can...
Yeah, Ivy asked me, so that's what the doctors were saying when they found out you had the stones? Oh, I see. They were harvesting. Oh, I get what you're saying now. When you said harvest, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know what they were going to do with my old gallbladder, but maybe. That's something I haven't looked into yet. If you have, I'd love to hear your insights on it.
Your body can better absorb these fats so they can be stored and used as energy in the future. Gallbladders can be removed if you have gallbladder cancer, inflammation, or gallstones made of hardened bile that block your biliary ducts.
That's the common
Without
reason.
a gallbladder, your bile continuously flows in a steady stream from your liver to your small intestine.
Remember this common bile duct here. This is going to come in important later for those of you who have had your gallbladder removed or will unfortunately still have to have it removed. Yeah, I said surgery is not the answer. That's because surgery only deals with the symptom of the problem. It doesn't deal with the problem. We'll get into the answer shortly.
This can lead to changes in your digestive system that require small adjustments in the food you eat, or other discomfort like bloating, gas, or diarrhea. Overall, your gallbladder plays a small but mighty role in maintaining your digestive habits. But without it, you can live a long, healthy life.
Ooh, that last statement is true. It's true. You can live a long and healthy life without it. But I think that that's tagged on way too easy to the conversation about having something removed that is the only organ your body has that does that job. Yeah, I don't know, Sourpuss. She says that you could sell it on the black market. I don't know. Maybe there is. Maybe there's a market for used, ruined gallbladders, but I'm sure there are some organ harvesting going on, maybe for good organs, but I don't know how good an organ is that has the stones in it. If they can get, I have no clue. But anyway, it is interesting to consider because there's always some nefarious thing seems to be going on out there. So now we know what the gallbladder does, though. Basically, you have an idea that bile and gall is designed to help you dissolve fats in your food, to be able to digest rather fats in your food, make it better absorbed in your body so that you can use what's there and it doesn't wind up going into your stool, which can cause you to have problems in your colon and fermentation going on, things like that. So that's what your gallbladder is for. And, you know, again, I harp on this because my son, when he was 18 years old, had his gallbladder taken out. And I can't help but think that this could have been avoided. These are things I didn't know back when he was 18. And these are things that if I can share with you now, maybe you can share with your children, or you can share with the diet habits you're creating for your family that could make things a lot better for them, to where they don't accept the normalcy of things like gallbladders being removed or other things that I've talked about. Having your wisdom teeth taken out. Why is that normal? Check out my previous video on that. And while you're checking out previous videos, you can check out ferrignofreedom.com for anything that I talk about on the carnivore diet or the things that I use, other information where you can talk to me, ferrignofreedom.com. Let's go on to the next bit of information here. I wanted to look at this thing from Harvard here, where, again, they go into what gallstones are. This particular article is directed toward women for some reason, and it's only a few months old. But I mean, gallstones are real for both people. But just to understand what gallstones begin with bile, a substance that helps with digestion of fats and the absorption of certain vitamins. Bile is made in the liver and carried to the gallbladder. A small pear-shaped organ that concentrates and stores it. The fat in the food triggers the release of a hormone that causes the gallbladder to contract and release bile into the intestine. Gallstones are solid lumps that develop when the stored bile crystallizes. Most are less than an inch in diameter, but they can be as small as a grain of sand or as large as a golf ball. Man. Most gallstones are composed mainly of cholesterol. The rest, known as pigment stones, are made of calcium, salts, and bilirubin, a breakdown product of red blood cells. Wow, that's really big. Well, you read that too, and the first thing that jumps to your mind is, oh, well, you shouldn't be eating anything that's high in cholesterol, right? Well, it doesn't quite work that way. But that's what gallstones are, is they're basically crystallized bile that's sitting in your gallbladder that sits there too long. Now, what would possibly cause them to sit there too long, or that bile to stay in there too long? We'll get to that in a moment.
Low-fat, low-calorie diets were among the worst things you can do with slowing down the emptying of the gallbladder, thereby increasing your risk of stones. In other words, we only empty the gallbladder when we eat fat. And because so many people have been so afraid of fat for so long, the gallbladder has a very low motility or high stasis. It's just sitting there with all the stuff in it, never emptying itself. So we've ended up with this sort of perfect storm. We're eating low-fat foods, low-fat diets, which means the gallbladder isn't emptying very frequently. These same low-fat foods are almost always going to be very high carbohydrate, and I don't mean fruits and vegetables, of course, nowadays. It's going to be high processed, refined carbohydrate. In other words, high insulin spiking foods. And as insulin's going up, it's increasing the cholesterol production from the liver, enriching the bile, making it even thicker, promoting the formation of stones.
Now, Dr. Ben Binkman there is a mad genius. He knows things about medicine that he's learned that is just really insane. Really good on insulin information. If you're interested in learning more about insulin resistance and insulin sensitivity, look up Dr. Ben Binkman. He's a wealth of knowledge. But what he said about the gallbladder is dead on right. So let's I'm going to keep going because I want to watch these shorts real quick and get right into it. I haven't seen this one yet. I haven't seen a lot of these, but I've seen a few of them. But I wanted to look this up with you so we could share some of this. But I got a few videos prepared that I've already watched and some that I haven't. But I've watched Dr. Paul Mason before too. He's out of Australia, and he's with Low Carb Down Under, as you can see down there on the bottom. I have links for most of these videos already in the description. I'm going to try to get the other ones that I added after I created the live stream earlier so that you can see those too. But I would encourage you to follow some of these channels for really good information on being able to live a proper human diet. Low Carb Down Under is a great starting point. It's exactly what they said.
actual fact, we used to give one of these detergents in a tablet called ursodeoxycholic acid to dissolve it. And
you can actually see them dissolve over time. They've got so much more information about gallstones than when I was at the doctor, at least for what they were going to give me. I don't know if they knew anymore or not. Maybe they were just ignorant to the truth. But unfortunately, they're the people we turn to for the answers when we do that. But so far, this video and the previous one too are so, it's like a catharsis. It's like, man, I've been saying this for years, and I was speculating that I noticed the difference with the issue because I don't have a gallbladder. And I started a all meat diet 5.5 years ago. I have eaten nothing but meat since, with the exception of a few odd days or things like that. But I mean, nobody's perfect. And I have to go out to eat with family and friends sometimes. And I eat at restaurants with families and friends or sometimes, and don't always have the choices you want. But nevertheless, I never just chowed down on bread and things like that. I just ate meat and sometimes some other things with it. But 99% of the time, it was just meat. I still, like lately, somebody asked in the chat here, I want to say, by the way, welcome guys. Welcome Sim, Yen, Har. So many names, I don't even know how to say them all. But hey, thanks guys. I appreciate you being here. You can't hear what? What was not showing the video? Oh, geez. I did that last time. I got to remember to go back to this. Let me go back to the beginning of this video, and that'll make a lot more sense. Guys, this is one of the hard things about doing a live stream. I never wanted to do live streams when I started because it's so easy just to edit and make everything look perfect. But when you're getting good at it, sometimes it takes a while. So please forgive me, and let's do it again. It's only a minute.
we tend to blame.
Oh, and one more thing before we get started. Since we're mentioning this, I have a clips channel now too, Ferrigno Freedom Clips, and you can go there to see the clips I make of these later. Now, it takes me a long time to edit those quick clips, so it's like every day when I get off of work, that's what I'm working on at night. I'm editing clips, and I'm trying to get those out there so that you can have something in short format that's easy to share and easy to watch when you're watching with family and friends or just by yourself. So check that out at Ferrigno Freedom Clips.
We tend to blame high-fat diets on gallstones because what happens is it's a high-fat meal that leads to this severe pain up under the right ribs and you end up in hospital. And the reason we blame high-fat diets is because the attack was triggered by high-fat diets and our doctor tells us it was because of the high-fat diets. But that's wrong. So when we think about it, the gallbladder is filled with fluid like detergent that helps the body digest fat. So it's a reservoir. And every time you eat a high-fat meal, it squeezes empty and squeezes this detergent-like bile into the intestines where it can mix with fat and then it can subsequently be absorbed. So if you don't eat fat because you follow the low-fat dogma, your gallbladder doesn't empty. So you've got this fluid sitting there and then it turns to sludge. It thickens. And then an extension of that process is it can eventually form stones. So then what happens is 99% of the time you're very, very good on the low-fat diet. Then you go and have a meal of fish and chips. Your gallbladder tries to empty and you've got this stone and it's got a little tiny exit and that stone gets wedged up in the exit, blocks it, you get a severe attack of pain. Now what caused the stones to form? The lack of regular emptying. It wasn't caused by the high-fat diet. The high-fat diet...
That's it. That's what I was saying. It's that lack of regular emptying. I said that. You can go back and look for my videos. I'm not going to search through 800 videos for that, but I know it's in there somewhere where I've mentioned multiple times, and I know I have some specific videos on gallbladder. As a matter of fact, I'll link one at the end of this video that you can check out. Maybe I'll talk about it there. But it's just that I have said for a couple of years now that I think that I caused my gallbladder to need to be changed because I was a low-fat dieter from the 80s. Everybody was always saying, you got to cut the fat out. You got to take the fat out of everything, non-fat. So here I am trying to be health-minded as much as possible, but not, I wasn't focused on that. I was focused on having a wife and kids and playing and work and, the things that people do and just enjoying food and life and fun. But I thought I was being careful with my food. looking back, I realized that I was being careful, but I was being careful following the wrong advice. And that's why so many things that are not normal have become normal now, because we followed bad advice for a long time. And we can go into other videos where we talk about things that we followed that are wrong, involving cholesterol, for instance. But that's for another video, and I've got plenty of videos from that for you too. You can definitely search my channel if you're interested in hearing more. But that was the vindication for me, was just hearing doctors saying exactly what I suppose that it was, and it's encouraging. It's encouraging to me because I'm learning something about my body, and I'm so thankful to be able to share it with people, and I hope this information is helping you.
Caused by the high-fat diet. The high-fat diet just brought the attack on. And what we've actually shown in my patients is that if we have a look at their gallbladder before and after they start a ketogenic diet, we can actually see those stones dissolve and disappear over time. And in actual fact, we used to give one of these detergents in a tablet called ursodeoxycholic acid to dissolve it. And the medical literature is got heaps of cases where we know we can dissolve gallstones, and that's fallen out of favour. The reason is because as soon as somebody dissolves the gallstones, they're
Do what?
Fantastic, but the medical literature is got heaps of cases where we know we can dissolve gallstones.
That is specifically something my doctor said that they could not do. Now, could they do it 24 years ago? I don't know. But just hearing that is a surprise to me, because I'm willing to bet. I know when my son went, and he's 28. So it's been 10 years. So even for him, I asked him, I said, is there something they can do to dissolve them? And they said no. So hearing a doctor say that they can be dissolved ought to give you an idea of what you should think about what your doctor might have said, because it seems like they're not all telling the truth. And I don't understand why, if they did know the truth, or do they just not know the truth? How do you charge people for your expertise if you don't know the information? But that's what happens, unfortunately.
No, we can dissolve gallstones, and that's fallen out of favour. The reason is because as soon as somebody dissolves the gallstone...
Surgeon's gonna surge. I love that sourpuss, sorry. That made me laugh.
Somebody dissolves the gallstones, they're fantastic, but they're still put on a low-fat diet, so they just reform. And standard medical theory is, well, if it's just going to come back, why don't we just cut it out, because, you know, I've got a second mortgage and I want to buy another car. So that's not for everybody, but that's a prevailing medical paradigm regarding gallstones.
Okay, I'll buy that. He's nailing it, and that's what people definitely usually default to when they come to their understanding of this. All right, let's see, where did my Safari screen go? There we go. All right, so what do you guys think of that so far? Are any of you here that are not carnivores or followers of mine that normally would be here? I'm just curious if anybody joined in that wanted. If you've got any questions, I would like for you to please put them in the chat right now. The live chat will be available on the replay. And if you're watching this on replay, put your questions in the comments. I do read your comments, and I'll get back to them as soon as I can. Can't always get to all of them, but I do my best. All right, let's check this one out since I don't have any new questions right now. So this is the thing that I've also heard. When I've talked to people when I'm at work or out and about, and we get to talking about health, and the conversation about carnivore ultimately comes up a lot with me for some reason, people will say the low-fat diet is what you do to prevent gallstones myth. And Dr. Berg, he's got some different theories on some things that I think are good, but overall, I still think his approach is going to save a lot of people's lives, even though he eats a lot of things that I don't eat. He does address a lot of the issues that are not being addressed by the modern American diet or the standard diet around the world. So let's take a look at what he's got to say. It's only a couple minutes long. And I'd love to hear your comments. Please ask any questions in the chat.
Hello, Dr. Berg here. We're going to talk about the low-fat diet to prevent gallstones myth. There's this rumor going around that if you have gallstones, you need to be on a low-fat diet because high saturated fats cause gallstones.
Honestly, it's the opposite. That's the truth that we're finding out now. But that is what people are being told. And I have heard I've heard people tell me that doctors told them that they can't eat more fat because they have gallstones. They're afraid they're going to get gallstones, or they have a gallbladder problem or something like that. So they are going low fat for that purpose. There's another thing in medicine like that, and it's when diabetics who are suffering from extreme insulin resistance are put into a position where the only solution they have to treat their ongoing symptoms is to add fuel to the fire of their insulin resistance, which is what caused their diabetes to begin with, and actually makes it worse in the long run, but does keep you from dying immediately from having too much sugar in your system. So it's like they come up with a solution that temporarily solves the problem, or in this case, I don't even think it temporarily solves the problem, but it actually does the opposite of solving the problem.
High saturated fats cause gallstones. That's absolutely not true. Let's talk about some actual facts. What triggers bile release, which bile is the stuff the gallbladder stores that comes out of the gallbladder to help you digest, what triggers the bile release is saturated fats. So saturated fats release bile from the gallbladder. That is the main trigger, okay? Number two, bile salts dissolves gallstones. Okay, I'll put a link down below for more information on that. But yeah, when you take bile salts, that actually helps dissolve gallstones.
I've never heard that before. That's definitely a new one on me. Bile salts dissolve gallstones. I guess bile salts is when you buy ox bile. I know it's harvested bile from ox, but I don't know if it's I guess it is bile salts because that's what they get out of them that makes it useful. Interesting. See, never heard that either. And if you just heard from your doctor about this, maybe that's something that can help you too. You should definitely look into it. I don't know if it's a solution, but that's the first time I've heard it.
Gallstones are a bile deficiency. That's why you get them.
Hey, Josh.
Okay, does that make sense? That's what causes them. You have this super saturation of cholesterol that makes the stone because there's not enough bile. Okay? So number four, high insulin can deplete bile. Other things can do it too, like high estrogen, birth control pills, being pregnant. That's why a lot of times women get that. But a lot of diabetics get gallstones because they have high insulin. But high insulin from insulin resistance is the number one cause, from my viewpoint, that depletes your bile that causes the stones. Now, should you be a vegan?
So for those of you who have never heard anything about diet like this and maybe don't even know what insulin is, what does that make you think? Like, oh, I got to lower my insulin. Well, how do I do that? I assume he's going to get into that, but these are things that we just don't think about in everyday life. And that's why abnormal things become normal, because we don't put our thinking cap on for just a little while like we're doing tonight. And I'm glad you're here with me tonight.
Now, should you be a vegan or should you be a meat eater? Well, it really depends. If you're a vegan that's eating a lot of grains and sugar, you're going to get gallstones because you're going to have high insulin. If you're a meat eater that eats a lot of grains and sugar, you're going to have high insulin and you're going to deplete your bile and get gallstones. So it really is the absence of the sugar and keeping your estrogen down or normal, then you'll be safe. So the real problem is not too much fat. It's not enough bile. And that's why sometimes even vegans that go no saturated fats, they don't produce a lot of bile and they can end up having problems with the gallbladder.
So that's for those of you who are taking the vegan route because of health. You know, there's basically two reasons you tend to find people go vegan. It's either ideological or health or both. If you're doing it for health, these are some things you need to consider. If you look at the things that are deficient in the vegan diet and look at the carnivore diet for nutrient density comparisons, you will see the carnivore diet gives you far more nutrient density. And if you also are doing it for ideological reasons, you need to look closely at how many animals are killed in the process of farming, how much farming we have to do to feed people all the grain and other things that you want to feed them by going vegan and vegetarian. It's far more animals than would die when you're raising them for the purpose of slaughter. Not to mention, how do you think those cows would fare in the wild? being able to have mass herds like this and live in relative peace is something that's mostly available because we protect those herds. They're valuable and they're good. So that's why they're so important.
Some of them. But same thing with meat eaters, depending on what they're consuming. If they're not having enough vegetables and they're adding sugar and grains, they're going to create a problem. Okay, thanks for watching. Put your comments down below. Hey, you probably already subscribed, but if
Hey,
you
Crow
haven't,
and Lee,
press this
nice
little
to see
button
you
down
guys
below.
made it in here tonight. I really appreciate that. And by the way, since Josh popped in, I wanted to remind you, check out Carnivore Bar, carnivorebar.com. You can use my discount code Dante to save 10% on your order there. Carnivore Bar is a great company that is really trying to find ways to make products available to people in the carnivore community who are looking for a good high-fat, high-protein snack that they might need in a situation maybe where they just don't have access to the food that they would like to eat, or you just want something to snack on because maybe it's getting late and you don't want to cook a steak before bed. I often do this with the Carnivore Bar. A 1-ounce little piece of fat and meat costs about $5. Very satiating, gives me exactly what I need. I don't go to bed hungry when I have those rare nights where I feel like I need something at night. I will say on Pure Lion diet, I don't have those kind of hunger moments, not nearly as often, but when they come, they are like a parachute to save me from crashing and eating something that I shouldn't, because my kids eat pizza and junk like that, and they got their stuff in the refrigerator. It's so easy when you're hungry at night. You got those late night little munchy thing going on where you want to eat something before bed and you don't have anything cooked. Carnivore Bar can really save your bacon, or in this case, your beef. Let's check out this one real quick that I brought up about the gallbladder here. This lady was on Instagram. Gallbladder removal affects bile acid circulation and changes the way bile is delivered to the intestine. So these are some things that are important to know about why you might want to fight to keep your gallbladder, why you might want to change your diet to protect these vital organs in your digestive system that not only keep you alive and healthy, but they keep you from being in pain and miserable. Because when you've got gut problems, you've got mental problems too. And if you've got gut problems that are as bad as mine, you feel them, and you feel them on the inside. It's an emotional and a physical battle. You don't want this battle. I promise you, you don't want this battle. If you're a young person watching this, please think about how important it is to take into heart what you're eating. You're used to seeing all this stuff that's at the store. You go to the grocery store and you see aisles and aisles of garbage on the shelves, but it looks like food because on the package on the front, it's got a picture of something that looks like food and it says it's food. Sometimes it says it's sort of food and we just ignore it anyway. Now, if you turn the box around and you look at the ingredients on it, you're going to see, okay, this was supposed to have macaroni, which I don't know, is made with flour or something, and cheese. So that sounds like 2 or 3 ingredients, but then there's like 50 ingredients on the back of that box. What are all these ingredients? And how is eating all of those in the quantities that we eat them in, which is very large quantities compared to prior to these ingredients being introduced into our diet, how are these large quantities of things affecting our bodies? One of the things they're doing is destroying your metabolism. And that is a big part of what one of the doctors mentioned earlier, is that it's not just what you're eating, it's your overall dietary health. I think it was the first video where it was talking about how it has to do with the rest of your digestive health being in line. Well, what do you think causes your digestive health to get out of whack, except that what your digestive health processes, the food that you give it. The food that you give it is poison. You're tearing up your digestive system, and it's not a comfortable way to go. Take it from a guy who has seen people die in front of his face. I was an administrator at a retirement home. I've seen some of the worst pain people go through when they're dying. And looking back, I realized some of those very painful deaths could have been easily avoided with a simple change daily of guarding what you put in your mouth. It can change your life. It could save your life. You know, it could even stop you from getting Alzheimer's. Check out another video I have on that. I've talked about Alzheimer's disease on this.
Gallbladder series. So your gallbladder came out and went some of your metabolic protection. Here's what the research actually shows. Removing your gallbladder increases your risk of diabetes and fatty liver disease, what we know as MASLD. There's a large study of over 500,000 people
All right,
that found out.
Before she goes too far, because that was, I don't know, I can't rewind on Instagram, but she said about how it increases your risk of fatty liver disease. Fatty liver disease is something that didn't even hardly exist except for extreme alcoholics over 100 years ago. And now we have a designation to differentiate between cirrhosis of the liver or alcoholic fatty liver and non-alcoholic fatty liver. Where did the non-alcoholic one come from? If alcohol was causing the problem, how come people who are not alcoholics are getting this disease so often that it has to be called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease? And if you do some further research, you'll find that the U.S. military keeps track of the health of their people, and you'll see there's a graph you can follow that shows non-alcoholic fatty liver disease on a steady incline since the 1980s. What could have possibly caused that? Well, one of the reasons is we're following the food suggestions of all of these people I mentioned before earlier that were leading us down the wrong path. And now there's a lot of people with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And that causes a lot of other problems inside your body because it packs fat around your liver. Your liver is so important for your functioning, your ability to live. It produces glucose for your body to operate on. Yeah, you don't have to eat glucose to get it. Your liver already makes glucose, but it's not going to do it very good if it's surrounded, packed with fat because it can't function properly. And it's not going to do very good if it can't also make bile to break down your fats when you eat them. So that's why you got to watch out for your gallbladder.
Cold gallbladder removal, that the risk of developing MASLD fatty liver goes up by 50%. And if you already had metabolic risk factors like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, blood sugar issues, that risk doesn't just go up, it more than quadruples.
All three of those issues right there are caused from improper human diet. And most people look at those and say high blood pressure, you had too much salt. High cholesterol, you had too much red meat. Blood sugar issues, you're predisposed to diabetes. You're genetically predisposed to diabetes, or you're a sugar addict. You're just one of those people that eats candy all the time. And that may not be the case, but you still may have diabetes. So what's causing it? It is still the diet, obviously. High blood pressure has less to do with the salt and more to do with the sugar, because the salt just tells your body to hold on to the water that's in your body. And when it stays in your body and it stays inside your blood cells, it's taking up more space. So the pressure goes up. So you're not letting some of that water go because your salt is holding on to it. Well, what's telling your body to hold on to the salt? It's the sugar. The sugar is not telling, when you eat sugar, your body says, hold on to all that salt. I don't know the exact reason for that mechanism, but I know that's the case. And that's the reason why you have high blood pressure, is eating too much sugar usually. Once I cut out sugar and went on a carnivore diet, I'd been on blood pressure for over 15 years. And I am not on blood pressure today at age 53. I'm not on blood pressure medicine, I should say. High cholesterol. I didn't ever have high cholesterol according to the modern standards, except that it would hit about 100, 110. And one time my triglycerides, they said it hit about 300. That number didn't mean anything to me back then. I thought 300, is that a lot? I don't know. But the doctor kind of played it off like it wasn't a big deal, but that was still a big deal. So the doctor said, don't eat meat. Well, once I go to a full carnivore diet years later, why is it all of a sudden my cholesterol is normal? My triglycerides were at 35 on one of my blood readings recently. My HDL is in the warm 90s, 80s where it should be, where it's showing very good health for my cholesterol. My LDL last time, I was right under 100, but it usually hovers between 110 and 90, which is kind of low considering how much meat and fat I eat. But my cholesterol is at a healthy level. And I eat nothing but red meat. I'm on a version of carnivore diet called the lion diet. So I only eat beef and lamb and a few other ruminants, but mostly beef. And that's the one the doctors say, yeah, don't eat too much red meat. You can eat some chicken and eat some pork. How come I'm experiencing the best health of my life eating only red meat? Why would that be? Except that the documentation, the studies are wrong on meat. Also, when you're doing research on diet, by the way, it's really hard to do a true study on what people are eating over a long period of time, because who's reporting? The person who's doing the study, the person who's in the study. And they don't want to get like, oh, I'm going to get cut out of the study if I don't eat right or if I don't do the right thing. And they want to be called back for the next one. So they're going to make sure to say that they always ate right. Heck, it's hard enough people to get people to be honest with themselves, let alone honest with somebody else when they're talking about what they ate and why they couldn't lose weight or something like that. So anyway, those are just some caveats that I thought of when I saw that. All three of those are contributors to the problem that causes your gallbladder to have a problem. It all starts with diet.
So if your surgery had to happen, it had to happen. It was important. You had to get it out. But now your metabolic health, you need labs, you need imaging. It's not because something's wrong, but your risk has changed and you need to catch it early. Prevention after gallbladder removal is very important. We don't do enough of it. So please talk to your primary care doctor, talk to your gastroenterologist. Just be aware that you want to make sure you are doing serial monitoring of your metabolic health factors after gallbladder removal. The pathophysiology is deep. I'll dive into that, but just know this, because I don't think a lot of us actually know, physicians and patients alike.
Truth. Keto Simple, your name is Dustin, according to Ivy, I guess. Welcome. Nice to see you here. I like your logo for your icon, or whatever they call that picture for YouTube. You can tell I'm a real tech expert. All right. Now, as I've told you, I started the carnivore diet. Don't let me forget to switch back to this screen. I've done it more than once. Before I started the carnivore diet, I had my gallbladder taken out. And after starting the carnivore diet, I learned that it might be something important for me to have like bile salts for my diet. I tried them. I didn't notice a difference, so I didn't use them anymore. But I know some carnivores who did need to have those. So a lot of people ask me, though, can I eat carnivore without a gallbladder? I mean, a gallbladder is key to processing fat. If I'm on a carnivore diet, I'm going to be eating a lot of fat. I don't have my storage tank anymore. What am I going to do? How am I going to eat fat properly? How am I going to keep it from seeping into my colon and causing fermentation and other problems? Well, the interesting thing that I learned is that your bile duct, remember that little thing I pointed out earlier that goes between the liver and your intestine, basically, or actually it goes to the gallbladder and then it would go to your intestine, but there's a common bile duct that's shared between them. So when you cut off the gallbladder, now it just goes to the common bile duct and it just goes into your system from there. That duct, though, if you're using enough bile because you're eating fat, that duct is going to expand a little bit. For one, there's no gallbladder there anymore taking up space, so it gives it room. And then secondly, it's going to stretch because it's getting more requirement for bile to be produced. So that expands. Now, it doesn't go to the full, I think, what's a gallbladder hold? About 3 ounces, if I'm correct. It doesn't go to a full 3 ounces, but it can give you basically a third to a half of what you were getting from a gallbladder if it gets big enough. It also doesn't have the same exact response as your gallbladder would have, but it does, your liver itself responds to the hormone that lets it know to release it, so it still comes out. Even though there's nothing to squeeze to tell the gallbladder to let it out, it's still there for it to come out, and as the liver produces it, it comes into your system. So that was something that I learned, but let's take a look at what some of the doctors have said. See, I almost forgot. Where the heck is my buttons at? It's too many monitors. All right, let's see here.
When you have your gallbladder taken out, your bile ducts in your liver actually dilate and take on a storage capacity. Because what your gallbladder does is it stores bile. It also concentrates the bile. And then when you eat a good, healthy animal fat, it squirts the bile out to break down and emulsify the fat. Your bile ducts in the liver actually take on that function, and your common bile duct will actually dilate, and it'll take on a little bit of a storage capacity. If you don't have a gallbladder, if you start eating a higher fat diet, you're liable to have some diarrhea for a few days. But that's going to get better and go away in a few days.
Honestly, you're liable to have diarrhea anyway, because you're going to probably experience something called keto flu for a little while, and that's where your body is adjusting to their electrolyte changes and imbalances.
But you're going to get all the benefits of a proper human diet.
You've heard that, have you? I hope that's true. I hope they're not as likely to remove the gallbladder as they used to be. But like I say, it's only been 10 years since my son had his taken out. And you'd think with an 18-year-old kid, if they had an alternative, they would have used it. A lot of things can happen in 10 years. So I'm going to hope that you're right. Just responding to your comment, Keto Simple. And again, anybody else that's got comments, please post them now so that they'll be live with us. I've got about 15 more minutes before I'm going to be jumping off this live stream, but I got some more stuff I want to talk to you about. And I want to get your input too. If you guys have any experiences that you'd like to share. What is this? Robert Harrington says, Dr. Jack Cruz, from his point of view, it's a problem with the vagus nerve, deuterium and oxygen and magnetic vortex, lack of sunlight and cold water, excess of artificial blue light and EMFs. Okay, I'll buy the lack of sunlight. I don't know anything about deuterium. Lack of oxygen certainly is a problem. We're not getting as much as we should. There's a lot of stuff in our air that didn't used to be. Obviously, that's going to have an effect in the long run. Oxygen is a huge healing option. Lack of cold water access or exposure to cold therapy, I'll buy that as well. That's something that's very good for our bodies to be able to be ready to fight. You know, we're so spoiled by our modern day showers and bathtubs. Let's see, lack of sunlight, lack of cold water. Yep. Artificial blue light, that's another one. I truly believe that that it makes a huge difference. I notice it just not being able to get out in the sun as much as I need to. So, yep. Keto flu is mitigated by an increase of electrolytes. I was using a lot of salt when I first started, but I was not using potassium and magnesium when I first started, so that might have made a difference. But I do know that I started using potassium and magnesium mixed in with my salt in the form of Relight from Redmond. And again, you can find that on my website at ferrignofreedom.com. But I didn't have keto flu very long. When I did Atkins diet years ago, which is very similar to carnivore diet, but it does have some other things that are not on the carnivore diet, I realized that I lost weight pretty quickly. But man, you know what? Sometimes when you're watching these things, I'm reading the comments and everything. I forgot what I was going to say about that. You ever get that moment where you feel all of a sudden self-aware and everybody's looking at you? Hey, I'm glad you guys are here, though. Oh, I appreciate that, Robert. Well, you know, I don't focus on all the stuff that distracts me from trying to reach out to folks and let them know that there is an answer to the problems that they've been having. If they've been having some severe health issues and the doctors don't know what the answer is, I'm finding that 99% of the time you could solve it by changing what you're eating. And I can't wake enough people up. There's too many people out there who are blind to this, and they think they're eating good, but they haven't heard this. Let's see. FAQ, can I do a keto diet without a gallbladder? So here's Ken Berry answering your question. That's Dr. Ken Berry. He's he was a practicing family doctor in Tennessee. I don't think he's practicing anymore, but anyway, the point is, he is really good with this. He's been dealing with the keto diet for many years, and then he's really gone heavy into carnivore in the past few years. So let's see what he has to say about it.
Doc, I don't have a gallbladder. I can't eat fat.
Right. And so I've had that question hundreds of times on the Facebook Lives that we do.
Yeah.
And so I'll have that question, like, I don't have a gallbladder. I can't do keto, right? And then I have about 80 to 150 people chime in the comments and say, no, I don't have a gallbladder and I'm doing great. And so we have all these N = 1 experiments, right? All this anecdotal evidence, but you yourself know when you've got 1,000 anecdotes, that's probably something you should pay attention to.
Yeah.
And so I think if you don't have a gallbladder, you can eat low carb. I think if you have thyroid problems, you need to eat low carb. If you have fatty liver, you absolutely must eat low carb to reverse that. Gastric bypass, yes, you can eat keto low carb. You could just keep asking me the questions. And so that's why I've started calling it the proper human diet, because then it makes that question silly.
Yep.
Hey, doc, I don't have a gallbladder. Can I eat the proper human diet? And you're like, think about your question.
Right.
Yes, of course you can. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now when they say, I have X, can I eat the proper human diet? it becomes a silly question. Of course you should eat the proper human diet. I'm sorry that you had the misfortune of having one of your body parts taken out by a surgeon that you may or may not have needed done, but you still need to eat the proper human diet because that's what we're talking about here.
Right. Do you coach people to sort of ease into it at different levels, maybe if they don't have a gallbladder or if they have kidney disease or if they have some other medical conditions as opposed to somebody who just wants to lose weight and jump into it? Or can everybody transition the same?
I think
before he jumps into that, I do want to say that that's something that always needs to be caveated with any time you're looking at making a major change to your diet is you do have to consider some outside factors about the medicine you've been taking or any actual genetic issues that you have been diagnosed with that are real, first of all, because sometimes they don't always diagnose you properly. But those things do happen that where you have an unusual situation that would cause you not to be able to, say, do a carnivore diet. Maybe you have alpha-gal, and that makes it impossible for you to properly digest red meat. And if you're not familiar with that, I have other videos on alpha-gal I'd encourage you to check out. And Keto Simple, I appreciate you pointing that out. He said, good thing is you're not alone. You're amplified by all of us in this community. It's going to take all of us and countless more to start seeing a true paradigm shift. Can't speak tonight. And he's absolutely right. And I appreciate you guys being here. For those of you who come back to my channel and watch to support, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, because the more you come back and click on these things, the more it's going to feed it out to other people that might be looking for a health issue that you've already solved because it's using your history compared to their history, and the algorithm brings them together. So please come in and like and share these videos, or at the very least, just watch them. I'm happy with that. I'm thankful you're here. So I appreciate it, because you're helping me reach other people, as Keto Simple pointed out, and you guys are a part of what I'm doing just as much as the effort that I do here every day. Your being here is as important to me as the work that I put into this, and I thank you so much for that, because that's how we get the message out to more people. All right, we're getting low on time. I want to jump into at least 2 more videos. I got 3 I wanted to cover. Let's see. So Dr. Sean Baker, for those of you who don't know Dr. Sean Baker, he is he's a surgeon. I think he was an orthopedic surgeon. He was living out on the West Coast recently. Now he lives in Florida, and he's the author of the Carnivore Diet book. So obviously he has some strong things to say about carnivore, but he also knows a lot of things about the human body, and he's a serious person that is into helping people get their health straight and not just make money treating symptoms like most doctors wind up ultimately doing.
All right, this is another common question I often get regarding diets. Can I do a ketogenic diet, a low-carb diet, or a carnivore diet without a gallbladder? And the short answer is yes, you can. Sometimes it takes some modifications initially, but if we look at the sort of the anatomy and the physiology of what the gallbladder does. The gallbladder, some of you guys know, stores a substance called bile. Bile is utilized to help us to break down or emulsify fats. And so bile is stored in the gallbladder. It's produced in the liver. It goes down the hepatic duct. It joins the common bile duct and then enters the duodenum through something called the sphincter of Oddi. Bile in the gallbladder and comes down the cystic duct, joins the bile from the liver, again, joining what's called the common bile duct, and that enters, again, into the duodenum through that sphincter. And so when there is fat present in the upper small intestine, when that fat has been sensed, so we've had a fatty meal, what happens is that sphincter of Oddi opens, and that bile will then enter that area.
There you go. That's what I couldn't explain earlier.
Under the stimulation of a hormone called cholecystectomy.
Back that up for a second. When I couldn't say what would pull it out because the gallbladder's not there.
Bladder will contract under the stimulation of a hormone called cholecystokinin, or CCK, and that's how we get that extra bolus of bile to help us emulsify and break down that fat. Now, when you don't have a gallbladder, what happens is bile is still accumulating and stored in that common bile duct behind the sphincter of Oddi. So The same thing happens when you have the upper intestine senses.
I can't. Why'd you have to bring up Oddi from Garfield? Now, when he says sphincter of Oddi, I just see Oddi the dog standing in front of. Never mind.
Fat that you've ingested. the sphincter opens up and bile comes in there. Now, what happens over time, actually, that common bile duct actually expands, and it acts almost like a mini reservoir, like the gallbladder does. And so you can certainly continue to eat fat with the absence of the gallbladder. Now, the question is, what's wrong with the gallbladder? Well, the gallbladder often produces gallstones or sludge, this sort of accumulation of the bile that basically some of the components in there start to crystallize out, or they come out of solute, and they become sludge-like, like sand, and it irritates the gallbladder. Sometimes it turns into stones, and then it becomes painful, and the gallbladder gets inflamed. We call that cholecystitis, and sometimes it gets infected. And now when we ingest fat, the squeezing of the gallbladder causes pain every time, and then we end up having the gallbladder removed, either due to pain or because the stones can start to lodge and block things, and so that's what happens. So why that occurs is because gall is static. There's stasis of the bile, and that's because we're not seeing fat in our intestines enough, and therefore the gallbladder just fills up with these stones, and that's what happens. So this is kind of a consequence of a low-fat diet over time, particularly one in which you eat a bunch of junk food and you have this chronic underlying inflammation.
And really, I want to clarify that. Eating a bunch of junk food doesn't mean just eating the stuff that's on the shelf at Circle K. I'm talking about 99% of everything that's in the grocery store, even when it says health food, it's junk food. It's processed garbage with different versions of chemicals that basically are sugar, but they don't call them sugar, that have preservatives to keep them on the shelf longer, to make them stay once they're cooked. Like you've heard about the McDonald's hamburger that lasted for years and it still looked like it was in perfect shape. That's not normal. Those are the things you're eating. You're basically eating a sponge. You know what? To be honest, a sponge would be healthier than eating the McDonald's hamburger bun. Hey, Papa Carnivore. It's good to see you.
So that is the reason, in many cases, why the gallbladder needs to be removed. And so if you go on a carnivore diet or whatever, keto diet, low-carb diet, initially you're going to need to probably moderate how much fat you eat. That is to say, you don't want to eat a lot of fat at one time because you'll overwhelm the capacity of your body to secrete the bile.
Though this is absolutely true, and some of people that I've worked with on carnivore diet, like the people that come to my roundtable meeting that we have Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. I have to remember all these details, man. That's the only thing when I'm flowing through this stuff. Sometimes all these little details trip me up. Every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. we have a meeting of the roundtable. That's my membership group. That's at ferrignofreedom.com. where I'm there to help support you on your carnivore journey. And sometimes I have other guests, like we had Carrie Mann there a couple of weeks ago, and I had one of the Carnivore brothers there a week or so ago. Who's Your Carnivore joined me last week, and it's a great chance for us to be able to get together and support one another. And also you can ask me direct questions. But yeah, this is really, he's kind of covering some of the same stuff that I've already covered, but I just wanted to let you know that you could do that. Let's see. Gallstones on keto diet. All right, now this is another thing. Sometimes I've had this. Now, if you're here and you're on a keto diet or you're on a carnivore diet and you found out that you have a gallstone, now you're like, oh no, it caused it. That's what happened. Let's look at this.
People they'll have a huge gallstone and they'll have no idea they have that. They go on a real whole food ketogenic diet and the gallstone starts to shrink. When it gets small enough to get into the cystic duct, that's when they have a gallbladder attack. And so then so many people out there are like, no, keto gave me, I had a gallstone. No, you had the gallstone before keto. Your low fat diet is what caused you to build that gallstone. Keto was shrinking it. When it got small enough, It got into the duct, and then you were in the emergency department.
Yep, that's exactly right. Looks like we're going to make it to, oh no, this is just one I wanted to share. This is the video that you can find in mine. I'll put a little link here at the end so that if you want to click on that one. This is one I made a few years ago about talking about being on a carnivore diet when you don't have a gallbladder. And have any of you who are watching right now had your gallbladder removed before you went to carnivore or had to get it removed afterward? I'm curious. And if you're watching after the fact and you have any stories to share with regard to that, please put them in the comments below. I do read those comments, and occasionally I read them live on here, or I'll use them in a future video where I'm answering comments from people like you. So I'd love it if you would leave your comments below. Be sure to like and share and subscribe while you're here. And I appreciate you guys being here tonight. I wanted to be able to tell you this because you don't have to get your body parts cut out if you change the way you eat now. And I'm telling you, there are so many people that just don't have any clue that the stuff we get at the restaurants and the grocery stores is killing us. It's what's making us look like the characters from WALL-E who are on the spaceship. You know, that's why we don't see a whole bunch of skinny people at the beach like we did back in the 70s. That's why we hear about people getting Alzheimer's disease on such ridiculous numbers. We used to hear about people getting a little, demented or having dementia, but that's a different animal than Alzheimer's. And Alzheimer's has turned out, after many years and many people suffering, families suffering with some of the hardest thing to deal with, a loved one who doesn't know who you are and possibly thinks you're there to hurt them or they want to hurt you. These are really hard things to live with, and they could have been avoided if people would have taken a serious look at the food that we're eating. But nobody knew. I can't blame the people who did this before. Nobody in the, regular people. You didn't know. I didn't know. There were people who knew, though. There were people who knew, and unfortunately, they've left us in a bad way. But I'm not here to harp on who did what. I'm trying to tell you that you can fix things now. You don't have to get on some fancy diet plan. You don't have to get stuff delivered to your home, specially made for you to. I don't have any subscription to sell you for food. I'm not trying to even sell you recipes or anything like that, although I am working on putting some carnivore recipes together just because people have been asking for them. I don't do a lot of recipes, but I've been practicing with it. But you can get healthy just changing the way you eat. But you've got to learn what's actually healthy. The problem is doctors have been telling you for the past 50 years that the things that make you healthy actually cause you to get sick, and they don't shy you away from the things that are actually causing you to get sick. You can change this. You can change it for you. You could change it for your children. You could make a generational change in your family if your children are young enough and you start learning about the proper human diet. I'm not telling you to just go feed your kids this food. I'm telling you to do the research. Look into it. Look how many people out there have changed their lives in dramatic fashion by changing the way they eat. And getting the poison that's in the modern diet out of your system is a huge step in the right direction. Carnivore diet does it completely. So, and it depends on the level of carnivore diet as to the level of your problem. My problem was pretty bad because my gut lining was eroded away to where it was letting things seep into my bloodstream without going through the normal process. That's leaky gut. It's not even something doctors will treat. So I was just getting bills to go see doctors who can't even fix my problem. You can avoid these things with a proper diet. That's all I wanted to share tonight. I'll be back for the roundtable here in just about 27 minutes. If you are a member on the site at ferrignofreedom.com, I'll see you in about a half hour. And if you're not, head over there and join up. I'd love to talk to you tonight. I see Who's Your Carnivores in the house. Who's Your Carnivore does recipes. Be sure to check out Who's Your Carnivore's channel. Do you have a channel? I don't know. I don't know if you have them on there. All I know is that Brett is one heck of a great meat cook. He's the one of the three that basically provides all the meat for the Healing Humanity events where we've met up around the country, or they go a lot of places. I've joined them a couple of times. It's not the same. But they make the food awesome. And you want to get recipes, Who's Your Carnivore is your guy. You did cut way back on the butter? And what has that done for you, Brett? I've cut out the butter since I went back on Pure Lion diet. Oh, and that reminds me, before I go, for those of you who have been wondering how I'm doing on my getting back on Pure Lion diet, I had gone to a more standard carnivore diet. I started incorporating cheese and eggs and occasionally some seafood or chicken or pork. Very rarely on those last 3, but occasionally. But I was eating a lot more cheese. I was eating a good bit more eggs. I was eating a lot of butter. And on carnivore diet, on the lion diet, it's specifically ruminant meat, water, and salt. You can add things later on if you find out you can tolerate them. It's just not always easy to tell if you can tolerate them. And I think I incorporated a few things that I couldn't tolerate. So I wanted to start over fresh, get it all out. And today is day 43, I believe, or 44, that I've been back on pure lion diet. I was only going to do it for 30 days and see how it went. But just like the last time, I've kept on going because I feel my best when I'm doing the lion diet. My sleep has been getting better. My attitude feels better. I'm able to overcome obstacles a lot easier. My overall clarity of thought is better. I'm even doing good at work. So, I mean, it's been good. It's been really good. And I've trimmed up a little bit, even though I haven't dropped a lot of weight since I started. When I first started, I was 199 pounds. I'm 189 pounds right now, which is where I always seem to wind up. That's like the number that I stay on. And I like it because that was my high school wrestling weight class that I was in, the 189 weight class. And I'm still tickled. 53 years old, I get to be my high school wrestling weight. The weight I had to lose 20 pounds to get down to when I was in high school is what I live at now at 53. And when you lived most of your life in the 250 to 300 pound range, that is such a blessing. You can have that too. That's another benefit that came from doing the carnivore diet. But the other thing I did at the end of 30 days of doing pure lion diet, I kept doing pure lion diet, but I added my exercise routine back. I was kind of counting on the exercise I was getting from being at work because I walk constantly and I have to lift and move a lot of heavy things a lot of times at work. So I said, well, that's good. No, it's not good. It wasn't good enough. Simply starting off, bringing back, this is how I started before. So I'm starting again after a year of being off on my normal home exercises, is I started doing 25 push-ups, take a break, do 25 more push-ups. The next day, I do 25 air squats, take a break, do 25 more air squats. And I've been doing that steady since day 30. I had no idea that adding such a small amount could feel so much different within a few days. I started feeling the pain at about day 4 or 5. I started feeling like, man, I'm carrying this. This pain is here. And it's a good pain. It's that kind of pain where you know, man, I feel it. It's becoming muscle. It's getting hard again. I can feel the changes coming. And it's happening so fast. Getting pure, I've said this before, but it's easy to even for me to forget how important it is. When you're doing it 95% right, that extra 5% is more than just 5% difference. It's like double the difference of what that first 95 was. When you're taking that extra step to do it pure, first of all, it reinforces your own personal discipline. That's what I've found, is by tracking and I'm looking at things and I'm writing down what I'm eating because I'm trying to make a record for you guys. But it's just like something you start doing when you're tracking your health stuff. It helps you to be disciplined in times when you wouldn't be because you don't want to ruin what you've been building. It's like playing one of those games on your phone. You play a game on your phone and you're getting all the prizes and the scores or whatever you're doing. I don't know what they do on those things. I used to play the golf game a lot, but whatever people are pressing when they press all that stuff, it gets you all excited, but you don't want to lose a little bit of it. That's how it feels, man. You get so excited because you're moving forward and you don't want to stop and write down, oh, today I had a piece of cake and my blood sugar went up to 300, or whatever. I don't even know what high blood sugar looks like. That's another thing that's been a miracle. I've been tracking my blood sugar while I've been doing this, and it has just been staying nice and steady. Even after I eat, it might give a slight rise, like maybe 3 or 4 points, and then afterward it'll drop back down to normal. I noticed that kind of weird. I don't know if it's normal. My blood sugar drops at around 6 o'clock, usually to around 70 or so. Even if I have already eaten that evening. Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say I was already eaten. I was trying to question that earlier if I had done it when I was already eating. But I noticed that it was always around 70 at night. If I had eaten earlier in the day, I typically eat around noon to 2 o'clock. And sometimes I'll eat a late meal. Many times that noon to 2 o'clock meal is the only meal I eat, and I might split it up into 2 portions during those 2-hour period. But I just noticed that my blood sugar drops off a little lower at the end. So I thought about it might be helpful for me because I tend to wind up eating later in the day anyway. Just trying a few weeks of seeing what happens if I eat my only meal, my OMAD meal, at around 5 or 6 o'clock. Even though that's later than I would normally like to do, that might help keep my blood sugar even more steady across the board. I don't know. That's just something I'm investigating. But it is nice to know that my blood sugar is staying nice and normal. And here's the most amazing thing. The past week, I have been in non-stop ketosis. I haven't been in regular ketosis in a long time. When I would occasionally check my blood sugar, I would find that I was not in ketosis. And I thought, I wonder why right now? I'm sure I must have been in ketosis earlier or later, and maybe overnight when I was, doing my longer fast. But I never saw that I was in heavy ketosis. And ketosis is real important for your overall healing. And it's also a key for you to be able to think clearly when you're eating a fat primary diet and you're not getting any sugar from anywhere else, because that's what makes your brain function even better. Your brain loves sugar, but it likes ketones even more. Ketones are really what clear out that brain fog. And it's also evidence that your body is converting its own fat into fuel, and it's coming out in your urine as there's a trace of ketones there to let you know, hey, yeah, we're using your fat. I wanted to show you the ketosis thing. This is a Keto Mojo app, and I don't know if I can do it like this. I should have probably hooked it up, but you can see this was this morning, and these are some previous readings. So that's the keto number. That was 1.0. Anything above 0.3 is ketosis, or is it 0.5? It might be 0.5. So here I am day before at 1.2, earlier that day at 1.5, 1.5 again. I don't know why I tested it so much. Those are just blood sugar readings. Now this one, nope, that was a normal blood sugar reading. That was good too. I sometimes hit some low numbers, but it doesn't affect me badly. But I typically ride in that 60s to 110s range. But staying in ketosis, I've just been happy to see it, because it's one of those things when you were doing the Atkins diet, that was like how we knew we were doing it right. So it's just a little bit of a reminder. I know I'm eating the right things because my body is using the fat stores that I don't need extra of. I mean, we live in a great country. I love the country I live in, and I'm so thankful for the abundance. If anything, we've got to be careful the abundance isn't what kills us these days. But I know I've got food available, so I'm not too worried about having fat stored for long-term preservation. And I have plenty of backup food as well. So if the apocalypse comes, I might survive it. But as I said before, I don't plan on being here for the apocalypse. And those of you who get that, you get it. Dante, why is Charger Mopar, a.k.a. Goat Carnivore, in our realm blocked from your channel? I have no idea. I don't know why Charger... he's been here many times. I have no idea. I'll look into it. I had no idea he was banned. I'm the only one that does anything here, so I don't think I did it. I would remember, I hope. Buckeye here. Hey, I about lost my gallbladder because of 3 months of straight juicing only. Yeah, well, juicing definitely is a good way to overwhelm your system with sugar. I came home earlier today and saw the little bullet juicer sitting on the counter. And I asked my wife, I said, who's juicing? She's like, what? You talking about testosterone? What's going on? I said, no, who's got a juicer here? She said, oh, I think it's my mom. I don't know. It's not mine. And I said, good, because I hope you're not going that route. That is one of the biggest scams in the history of the world. Juicing fruits and juicing vegetables. You're getting mass concentrates of toxins and sugar that your body is not made to process quickly. Oh my goodness. Lamb, cheese, butter, eggs, sausages, yum. Yes, I agree. I don't feel deprived at all. In fact, I can't wait for my next meal. So, hey, there's Katie. Speak of the devil. Hi, baby. Yeah, I'll check into it, Meathead. Yeah, I just saw it too, Papa. I don't know how he's blocked. I'll figure it out. I'm going to do that right now before I get started on the round table. If I can figure out how to do it. All right, guys. Hey, thanks for being here. Join me next week, same time, or join me in about 15 minutes at the round table, ferrignofreedom.com. See you guys next time.
If we pay extra, could we maybe get some grease or fat?